Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen, coming soon. New trains, new systems, and a new country to explore. Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen is coming to Train Sim World on 25th March. The story so far. The last of the new routes in 2020 for DTG Direct Take a Ticket segment is almost here. We've talked a bit about the development of the Zwolle Groningen over the last few months, and you can catch up to where we are below. So far we've covered 1. Basic details during the DTG Direct Take a Ticket segment. 2. Additional screenshots in our 18th December reveal. 3. First screenshots of the cabin, the February roadmap. The release of Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen forms part of our springtime sprint, with other releases, sales, and preview streams taking place throughout the rest of March. Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen. Goedemiddag. Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen marks the first Dutch route to arrive in Train Sim World, with 2 brand new trains and a new operator, Netherlands Spoorwegen. There's plenty to see, do, and learn for both new and veteran TSW players. The route, Zwolle, Groningen. The Netherlands sit against the coastline bordered by Belgium to the south and Germany to east. Players familiar with the German Bremen-Oldenburg route will note that Groningen is just over 100 km from Oldenburg, yet there is much to separate the respective railways operated between the two nations. The route covers 107 km between the cities of Zwolle, in the province of Overijssel, and Groningen in the province of Groningen, the capital of the north. The line between Zwolle and Groningen owes its lineage to the State Railways Construction Act of 1860, which would see the construction of the Netherlands' first 3 major state-owned railway routes, linking key large towns and cities. Zwolle-Meppel was built as part of Line A, with Line C branching off at Meppel to continue towards Groningen via Ryzen. By 1870, the connection between Zwolle and Groningen was complete. With the advance of time, the route has been periodically upgraded, not least of all in the 1970s with rebuilt stations and 1.5 kV overhead electrification, the standard for Dutch railways. As of November 2023, the line through Hoogeveen Station has been widened and realigned to increase the speed of intercity services. Zwolle Station, at the southern end of the route, was designed by Nicolaas Kamperdijk and built by the Rijkswaterstaat in 1866. It is one of 2 Staatspoorwegen first-class Waterstaat stations in the country, awarded first class for its size. In 2023, the station served over 44,000 passengers. The station has a bike shed with spaces for 5,800 bicycles, one of the largest in the Netherlands. Bicycles are of course a huge part of Dutch culture and transportation. Cyclists can therefore be seen as occasional traffic throughout the route. Along the rest of the route, players will pass through the 6 intermediate stations, adorned with NS signage in the Dutch language and unique PIS, as well as the unique trackside signage that will inform drivers of how to operate their trains along the route. OL and friends. One key difference with Dutch OL is that it runs at 1.5 kV DC. rather than the typical 15 or 25 kV AC common across Germany. The lower DC voltages, combined with the speeds trains run at, generates much higher amperage than on typical oil. And the way the design compensates for this is by running double contact wires, increasing the surface area with a pantograph. This detail is represented throughout the length of the route. Lastly, watch one of the many fantastic and insightful cab ride videos of the route in reality, and there is an undeniable detail making a home on Dutch routes: bird nests. Storks are a protected species in the Netherlands, having nearly died out in the mid-20th century, but conservation efforts have thankfully kept this from happening. Perhaps what people wouldn't expect, though, is with their resurgence in the wake of mass electrification, storks have taken it upon themselves to frequently nest atop the gantries of the NS railway network. As you drive throughout the route, take a moment to peek above the horizon and see nests scattered across the route. The trains. Eitenkoploper. Operating intercity trains with its uniquely styled cockpit is the Eitenkoploper. In 1977, the original 7 prototypes were run. None survive today. The first unit, 4011, was then delivered for regular service in 1983. The ICM received the nickname Koploper because it had what's called a walk-through head. The unique design of the ICM has their cabs located on the roof, which initially allowed through gangways between coupled sets. Refurbishments of the sets between 2006 and 2011 removed these gangways as they were deemed unreliable. With a design top speed of 160 km/h, this train runs service speeds limited to 140 km/h but were run and tested to 180 km/h during development. Prototypes of the ICM were built and tested in 1976-77, with the first train sets coming into service in 1977. It has become an iconic train for NS, servicing many intercity services to this day. The cab has a central driving position, elevated high above the track. The speed indicator runs lengthways across from left to right, much like that of older American cars, with a shaded bar indicating the current speed. Independent handles are used for the brakes and power. S&G Sprinter. Also included is the S&G Sprinter EMU. The Sprinter new generation train sets are part of the CAF Civity family of regional passenger trains and were introduced to replace older push-pull locomotive hauled services. In March 2015, NS allowed travelers and staff to choose possible interiors. Interested parties could choose from 3 interiors, with seats for the first and second class, and folding seats. The results have been an important factor in the interior choices of the new Sprinters. Initially, the S&G trains had a dark blue front. While this color met EU standards, the combination of the dark color and large window made it difficult to see the train at level crossings. NS would repaint 150 trains it already had, while new trains would be delivered with a new yellow color. Gameplay, signaling, and timetable. With a new country and new trains comes, of course, new gameplay, and even experienced players of Train Sim World may require some assistance when learning some of the details associated with Dutch railway operations. ADB Safety System. More experienced players will no doubt want to get to grips with the ATB Safety System automatic train bane loading or automatic train control, available to use on both trains. A dedicated tutorial exists for the system. There are 2 types of ATB. ATB, for example, or first generation, covers the signal pulse codes and cab speed enforcement. ADB-BB or improved version includes track equipment installed at select stop signals, which provide increased protection. The ATB system consists of 2 parts, one within the track and signal infrastructure to generate pulse codes, the other on board the train to interpret and enforce speed restrictions. We have included further details of the ATB safety system in a dedicated article. This includes information that features in the dedicated ATB safety system tutorial. Signaling and infrastructure. Powering the new ATB system is, of course, a whole new set of signals to TSW, the Dutch color light system. In many respects, they look exactly as one would expect modern signals to look, able to display green, yellow, and red aspects, with absolute, distant, and ground variants. Different aspects correspond to different ATB speeds, and speed reductions can also be accompanied with a lighted theater that can display routing and additional speed information. Should you wish to drive with ATB turned off, you can comfortably follow the color lights, as per most routes in TSW. either by looking ahead or by using the HUD/track monitor. Also aiding your way along the Dutch countryside is bespoke signs to look out for. On most routes, it is purely up to driver knowledge and discretion how they brake for an upcoming station, and the same will always be true in adverse conditions. But a handy sign exists called a Verkenbord that advises drivers when they should start braking to comfortably make a stop from line speed. Once approaching a station, look out for the stop markers distributed along the platform. These are measured using car lengths similar to those of the ICM, so the maths is straightforward. Driving a 6-car coploper, stop at the 6-car or next highest available marker. The S&G is shorter per car than the ICM, so a 6-car sprinter would need to stop at the 5-car marker. Timetable and scenarios. A varied timetable accommodates both new trains with both express and local services running along the length of the route. There is a total of 339 playable services. Item services will run between Zwolle, Appel, and the full-length limited stop between Zwolle, Groningen. On average, each of these patterns is half-hourly in each direction. Some of these services will have conductor mode available. SNG3 services will run Zwolle to Groningen stopping, Appel to Zwolle, and ascend to Groningen. These patterns run half-hourly on average, with the ascend, Groningen services only running in the morning and afternoon rush hour. Like the item, a selection of services will have conductor mode. At Zwolle, AI services run by both trains will go in and out of the map representing trains serving out-of-map locations. At Groningen, coupling procedures will take place to make double units and similarly uncoupling to split services up. There will also be playable ECS/depot movements at Groningen Europa Park and at Annan. Including ECS moves, the item has over 150 services, and the SNG3 has over 170 services. Additional services layers. A selection of static, AI, and a handful of playable services will be available for players that own other Train Sim World add-ons. The two playable freight services are operated by the DB-BR193 Vectron from Frankfurt Fulda, hauling second stock from Dresden-Riesa on what is otherwise a relatively freight-free corridor. A small number of short G6 shunting moves will unlock with the G6 Loco add-on. Fallon's wagons from the BR150x add-on will appear as static stock. The add-ons required to unlock the full list of layers are: the full timetable, including additional services layers, will be available across all platforms, including 8th generation consoles. A familiar ride with a free update to the DB Vectron. In our March roadmap, we revealed that an update is coming to the DB-BR193 Vectron from Frankfurt, folded to support Dutch signaling, screen updates, both English/Dutch speaking sounds, as well as the ADB safety system, which should hopefully give owners of the add-on a familiar loco to ride as you discover the Netherlands. These changes have been made by Fubian, a name that may be familiar to some people in the community, and will be coming to players in a free patch. Fubian, my favorite part of recreating railways and train sim world, is building everything that's on a screen, be it PIS or cab displays. So, when an opportunity came up to update the DB Vectron in my free time for the release of Zwolle Groningen, I jumped at the chance. Players can look forward to the following changes. 1. Implementation of the Dutch ATB safety system. 2. Ability to change the display and voice output language between German, English, and Dutch. 3. Corrected cab layout for Vectron with software E1 such as the DB Vectron. 4. Visual tweaks to all existing screens. 5. New brake status subpage on the right-hand screen. 6. Ability to teleport through the engine room. These changes would not have been possible without the excellent help from real-world drivers and technicians within the beta team. A big thanks goes out to them. Please note that you will have to lower the pantograph and manually switch over to the NL 1.5 kV system when you enter the cab of the Vectron on Zwolle Groningen to be able to move the Vectron and use ATB. AI trains currently do not change the setting and thus drive with the incorrect pantograph race. Scenarios. Also included are a selection of scenarios that feature situations such as failed trains for recovery, online running, and the replacement of an IC train with the SNG3. There's also collectibles to find and route tasks to perform. Train Sim World 5, Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen route add-on will release on 25th March for Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Epic Games Store, and Steam for Euros 39.99/pound 32.99/$44.99. For anyone yet to have upgraded to Train Sim World 5, there will also be the Train Sim World Registered 5, Dutch Regional Edition available on all of the above platforms for Euros 39.99/pound 34.99*$44.99. You can catch the preview stream on Monday 24th March over on YouTube and Twitch. Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen, App Safety System. This article goes into detail of the ATB safety system included in the Spoorlijn Zwolle, Groningen route add-on. There are two types of ATB. ATB, for example, or first generation covers the signal pulse codes and cab speed enforcement. ATB-BB or improved version includes track magnets installed at select stop signals, which provide increased protection. The ATB system consists of two parts, one within the track and signal infrastructure to generate pulse codes, the other onboard the train to interpret and enforce speed restrictions. ATB pulse codes. Note, codes 270 and 147 are not used. While some onboard equipment is capable of reading these, the codes have been disabled or removed from use from trackside infrastructure. ATB-EG first generation. When driving with an active ATB enforcement, anything besides BD the enforced speed is 10x the value indicated by the cab signal, e.g., 8 yellow will enforce 80 km/h, with the exception of yellow which will enforce 40 km/h. However, ATB allows a speed of plus 5 km/h, so 8 would allow a speed of up to 85 km/h. Overspeed. When the train passes over the currently enforced speed over speed, an audible warning alarm will immediately sound to inform the driver that speed must be reduced. The driver will have approximately 3 seconds to apply the brake to a minimum amount, which will silence the alarm and prevent a forced brake application. Failure to apply enough brake within the time limit will incur a forced brake application, bringing the train to a stop. If brakes are appropriately applied within the time limit, the train will be allowed to continue with that brake application until speed is reduced below the enforced limit. An audible notification 3 bells, buzzes, bleeps will sound to inform the driver that the brake can now be released. This notification will sound when below the plus 5 km/h excess speed, e.g., 85 km/h under the 8 code. Force brake recovery. When a force brake has been applied, there will be an indicator, cab desk light or display screen icon, to indicate the force brake application is active. Once the train has come to a complete stop, the following steps must be followed. 1. Train brake set to max braking 100% for S&G or step 7 for the I. 2. Ungrindle and unlock button to recover from the penalty. 3. Observe the red light on the ATB installation going out, then reset the lever to the release position. If these steps are taken correctly, the force brake application indicator will turn off, and the driver will be allowed to continue. Code change. When ATB speed enforcement is reduced due to a code change, there is a delay before the warning alarm first sounds. This delay in the change of speed in the cab and outside is down to the delay in the equipment. This delay is random and differs per day and per train. After this delay, the behavior is the same previously described. When a speed enforcement changes, an audible notification will sound to inform the driver of the change. This occurs for both an increase and decrease of speed. Assuming train is below the new speed after a reduction, this bell is a notification only and does not require any response from the driver. The code trackside signage marks the ATB code changeover point. This is place where ATB goes from ATB-G into ATB-G or the opposite. Disable. When receiving the BD code, the train is no longer limited to any speed, and an audible notification 5 bells, buzzes, bleeps will sound to inform the driver. When this enforcement occurs, the train will ignore 0/none code, since the lack of a code could indicate the train is no longer in an ATB signaled area. ATB-BB improved version includes additional failsafes to prevent trains from passing stop signals when under influence of BD and yellow codes. ATB-BB improved version. Beacons. Beacons are installed 120M, 30M, and 3M from select signals that communicate brake curves to the local. These magnets are not installed at every signal. They are only installed at select locations such as high traffic areas. These brake curves are not displayed or otherwise communicated to the driver in any form. The onboard system will only respond to these magnets when yellow or BD codes are being enforced, and will not respond to the magnets at any other code. If the train remains under the speed enforced by these brake curves, the onboard system will do nothing. If the train exceeds the speed enforced by the brake curve, a forced brake application is applied to bring the train to a complete stop. Standard emergency recovery applies between the 120M and 30M magnets. After the 30M magnet, the train will be further limited to 10km/h plus 5km/h. Disarming loop. Some installations include a disarming loop installed from the signal and up to 60m away. This disarming communicates to the train in a similar fashion to the beacons, except it spans the range instead of being limited to specific points. The disarming loops will notify the train when the signal aspect increase from stop, allowing the train to proceed at the 40km/h speed immediately without having to pass a beacon first. This is a great improvement if the train has already passed the 30M beacon, as it would otherwise be impossible to drive slow enough to remain under the brake curve, which would incur an emergency stop. Code change. When a new code not equal to either yellow or BD is received, the brake curve and reduced speed enforcements will be lifted immediately, allowing the train to drive to the speed indicated by the displayed code. For more information on ATB and game, head to the relevant tutorial. You can find out more about the Spoorlijn Zwolle Groningen route add-on on Dovetail Live